Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And this is Claude still.
Hey, Claude. See, if you were a follower on Patreon, you could have nice things like Claude.
Claude. We're here with you today for another writer's review. Sorry, I'm stuttering. For A Clean, Well-Lighted Place.
Ernest Hemingway. We're going to finish out the week again with Hemingway.
On a suicide note.
Yeah, because that's the way we do it. Well done, us. What do you got? What do you think about this? What can we fix about this? Let's workshop Hemingway.
Wow, fix about it. You know, that's an interesting point. We'll start here. If this were turned in, like, I've had a lot of writing classes. I have a master's degree in creative writing. This story would not survive any of those critiques.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, are we speaking ill of Hemingway, or are we speaking ill of a writer's
We're speaking
workshop?
Ill of a writer's workshop.
Okay.
Because there's a couple things at play here. If this is handed into a critique at the master's level, people are going to ask where your dialogue tags are.
Yes.
People are going to ask whose story this is. People are going to say, well, your beginning isn't where the story ends. Your story ends with a new character.
Yeah. People are going to throw this at you and tell you to stop pretending to be Hemingway. We understand.
Right, and I turned in a couple Hemingway stories.
Good
That's
man.
not true. That's
Good
not
man.
true.
That's dialogue tags. That's something we have brought up in Hills Like White Elephants. Hemingway does not like a dialogue tag.
No, he really doesn't.
And there is a piece in this short story where you lose track of who is speaking, and it drives me insane. It's young waiter, old waiter. I think do you have it marked?
Yeah, he's drunk now, he said. He's drunk every night. What did he want to kill himself for? How should I know? How did he do it? He hung himself with a rope. Who cut him down? His niece. Why did he do it? Why did they do it? Fear for his soul. How much money has he got? He's got plenty. He must be 80 years old. Anyway, I should say he was 80. And I think that's where it flips. How much money has he got? He's got plenty. He must be 80 years old.
And that drives me. We don't know who's speaking there. We make our assumptions, but it's still our assumption. I mean, you assume that this is the young waiter, this is the old waiter, but there is an ambiguity. You almost have to tag it yourself.
Right. Well, it has to flip somewhere.
Yes.
I'm only assuming that's where it flips, and that's part of the trick of Hemingway, right? And that's what makes Hemingway a different reading every time you read Hemingway. And it would get crushed in a master's level critique. Mm-hmm. But you're not Hemingway, right? I'm not Hemingway. No one in my master's program was Hemingway. So I think that speaks a little bit to the dangers of a critique.
Okay.
I think that having an audience and having a critique and having people read your stuff and tell you what's wrong with it is very, very good. You have to do that as a writer. I think where it gets shaky is what it is that you're taking from who.
Yes. Are you sticking to your writing voice and your writing style and not just adapting what people think is the best option?
And are you trying to do something new?
Yeah, that's just being shut down.
Right. Are you trying to do something innovative that... And look, that's another out that a lot of people take is, oh, well, I'm just a creative genius. They don't understand me. That's probably not true. It's just probably not. Yeah. And you have to know where that line is, though, because part of the compulsion in a critique is that, oh my God, I've got to say something. I have to say something. Let me pick on something that has been picked on before. What do I say?
Exactly.
There's
what
no
we're doing today. We have to say something.
Right.
Let's find something in this because this is a well-written piece.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what happens at the critique level versus what we're doing here is we like to point out a lot of the good things as well.
Yes.
Look at how Hemingway does this.
Yeah.
Look at how he pulls off characterization.
Look how clean the dialogue is.
Right.
Look at that.
So a lot of times at the critique level, especially when you're with the same people for weeks on end, people get catty and they want to say, oh, well, this jerk said something about my dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something about his, you know.
And, you know, that's one of the benefits of reading. especially something like Hemingway. You can make your own choices there. I mean, you don't know Hemingway. You're obviously not going to get through to Hemingway to write something a little different. But you can sit and say, this, I could have seen this done differently.
Yeah, and Hemingway wouldn't have listened to you either.
No, he wouldn't. He probably would have punched you in the face.
But going on from that, what are some things that stuck out to you, good or bad, as far as the writing in this piece goes?
And this seems to be the case with a lot of Hemingway short stories. My note, it's a clean, well-written prose.
Oh, look at you.
I have way too much free time.
Look at
this is the best of dialogue, again. Although the dialogue tags are just not there and it bounces back and forth, every word that is said is necessary.
Right, and it all shows things that the characters are thinking.
Yes.
Right?
It moves that piece forward.
He stays up because he likes it. He's lonely. I'm not lonely. I have a wife waiting for me.
Just in that alone, I've got backstory.
Yeah.
I've got introduction of another character.
You know where characters are coming from. You know where characters are going. You know where characters are right now.
And that is the beauty of Hemingway. And the piece is so brief, and there's so much ambiguity, but there's so much in the piece.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be 600 words.
There's nothing to it. I mean, honestly, if I would have turned that in at a college level, they would be like, this isn't long enough, redo it.
Right.
They wouldn't even read it.
Doesn't meet word requirements.
But and there's a lot of writing options. Are you familiar with 100-Word Story?
Yeah.
I love 100-Word Story. Great website, check them out, good writing tool. But it's trying to say so much in such a brief amount of time.
Yeah, I think somebody on Twitter, some publishing, I follow them at Adrian anyway, so search through my follows. They always issue challenges for 6-word stories.
6-word stories.
Which obviously comes from the Hemingway lore.
What is it? Baby shoes,
or for sale,
baby shoes never worn.
Which there's even question as to whether or not that's really Hemingway's, but of course no one doesn't believe it when they hear it because they've read these stories.
And some of the 6-word stories that people come up with are amazing. Hey, there you go. Comment below, shoot us a 6-word story, and I want to read them. I want to see what we got down here.
Yeah, don't forget characterization,
yes.
Plot, setting.
Yes, everything in 6 words. Make it happen.
Another thing that gets me about this is that everyone has their own perspective in the piece. Despite the fact that the old man doesn't really say a whole lot, you know exactly what he's thinking about. You know exactly where he is. You know exactly not why he's going through something, but that he's going through something. The young man wants to go home. You get that from the dialogue. You get that from the things that are going on. The middle-aged man is sort of he's the leaves. The shadow that's cast on the old man. He's just waving in the wind. He's between these two places. And you get that from things that are said.
And like we said in the reader's review previous in the week, although these are different perspectives, they're still the same person.
Yeah.
This is looking at, honestly, you could say this is looking at the stages of life. Perfect setup.
And the one piece of dialogue that illustrates that beautifully and illustrates characterization beautifully and illustrates motivations beautifully is right here. The waiter took the brandy bottle and another saucer from the counter inside the cafe and marched out to the old man's table. He put down the saucer and poured the glass full of brandy. "You should have killed yourself last week," he said to the deaf man. "You should have killed yourself last week," he said to the deaf man.
That's amazingly brutal.
But you've got everything right there.
Yes.
And it's the young waiter, not the old waiter, right? And the young waiter saying it directly to the old man. He doesn't care. He knows the old man can't hear him, and if he does, he
doesn't care.
Yeah.
Because he's a young man.
Right.
He's brash. He's all about confrontation. He's the young man going off to war, as someone has said previously.
That was me.
But again, he's the young man. We don't have names for these characters, which as a writer's workshop, I would say if somebody turned in a story about the young man, the old man, and the waiter. No.
I'm gonna get crushed.
No. You tell me about these characters. You tell me more. I want more depth. But if Hemingway turns this in, yes, you did this right, Hemingway.
But therein lies a quandary. Are we giving this all of this credit strictly because it's Hemingway. If I turn in this piece to you, what do you say to me? Something different than you say when it's Hemingway printed.
And that's the issue with the name of Hemingway. Everyone knows Hemingway's great.
Yeah.
We're not here to argue that. If you're in the literary circle, more than likely, unless you are an extreme exception, you're a Hemingway fan.
Well, or you're a contrarian, right?
You
like, not the
appreciate
extreme exception, you're making the exception of yourself.
You don't have to like it, but you could appreciate it.
Right.
But is it because it's Hemingway? And I think it would be very interesting to take some of the lesser-known short stories and distribute them. People who, because everybody's read Hills Like White Elephants. A lot of people have read Clean, Well-Lighted Place. A lot of people have read The Killers.
Who's read The Undefeated?
Exactly. And give it to them and say, hey, what do you think of this piece? And see how it goes.
Yeah. I thought about that in grad school, I really did, because it was just so snipey. But going back to characterization and going back to motivation, you can do that so beautifully with dialogue, and Hemingway pulls it off in these 500, 600 words. What's an hour? More to me than to him. An hour is the same. You talk like an old man yourself. I mean, look at the characterization there. And I hate to keep going back to the same point, but it's so pervasive throughout this piece.
Yes. And again, this is the best of dialogue. This is not a conversation. This is the best of the conversation.
Right.
Which Hemingway is undoubtedly famous for. But again, what do most writers struggle with more than anything? Dialogue. Dialogue is difficult. It is hard to get a character's point across without blatantly saying, this is my point.
Yeah, and I think that's more about dialogue has to be what the character is thinking, not what the character is saying or doing, right? There are a lot of times, like here, we lose who's speaking because it skips a turn,
Yes.
right? That's because the middle-aged waiter refuses to respond to something the young waiter has said.
Okay.
Right? So that's about what that older waiter is thinking. Not what he is saying, not what he is doing. And the young waiter, noticing the absence of a response from the older waiter, goes ahead and says something else.
And is that something that indicates his age? It's you running into the line of stereotype, but most younger people are a little more brash. I would say, especially given the time that this was written, where a young man is expected to go off to war, to defend his country, to make something of himself, you have to be.
Right.
You have to. If you want it, you take it.
And on the opposite side of that, how many times have you been in I get into this situation all the time at work, where I say something stupid and critical, and my manager just sits there quietly.
Yep.
And I think,
I gotta say something again. I gotta back it up a little bit.
I gotta do something else here. Take another route.
That's human nature, though. I mean, we can't judge it, but to be able to capture that
Right.
in your dialogue, my
That's a trick.
that is.
So if you were going to prescribe a clean, well-lighted place, what would it be for?
As if I thought someone in my writer circle needed this piece.
Because they are lacking in the areas of
Brevity.
brevity.
I think if someone is trying to say too much and it's flooding a piece, you should read A Clean, Well-Lighted Place to appreciate the fact that so much could be said with so little.
Okay.
Let's not get over wordy here. Let's cut it down, trim the fat, call it clean, call it good.
Mine would be motivation.
Yeah?
Because I've read a lot of unpublished works from writers, and it seems like there's a point in the piece where everyone sort of agrees, right, on whatever it is that's at stake. And I think it would be, I've seen a lot of writing that this would be able to be prescribed for because both of the waiters would hate the old man. And it would just be a snipe fest, right? And it would be like a what's his name? Jeff Rogan?
Joe Rogan, Jeff Rogan?
Does all the comedy movies.
Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen.
Wow.
I don't, I live in the Middle Ages.
He's the guy who looks a lot like me.
Right, that's the one.
That's
the one.
Yeah.
Your brother-in-law. Brother, maybe.
They could be.
But a lot of pieces like this on an unpublished amateur level end up turning into a scene from a Seth Rogen movie where it's two guys, you know how I know you're dumb? You know how I know you're dumb? It just becomes that. Hemingway doesn't do that. And I think that is not only commendable, but that's the thing with the piece.
Fair enough. So what did you think about A Clean, Well-Lighted Place from a writer's perspective?
Where would you take this piece and say it's useful?
Make sure you comment below. Shoot us that 6-word story. I'm kind of excited to see a little bit of that.
And we'll see you next time.
Make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching another episode of Strip Cover Lit. It is part of our goal to bring you literature. Be that from the writer's perspective, the reader's perspective, be it from film, books, poetry, no matter what. That's part of our goal here.
The best of literature and writing almost every day of the week.
Right. So if you noticed something here that brought value to your writer's life, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button.
That really is what pushes us. we wake up every day, we're like, hey, how many people are actually following? How many people are watching? What can we do here? So make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. Join us every week, actually. Monday, we'll start your week off with a 6 list, get you back into your literary week. Tuesday, we'll hit you with our reader's review. Book review, pretty simple, easy, straightforward. We'll go back into another 6 list on Wednesday. Thursday, we do a little bit of something fun. We'll do challenges. We'll do tags.
Maybe
book hauls.
Maybe a makeup challenge.
A makeup challenge.
A tutorial.
We'll see what's coming. Friday, we'll hit you with a writer's quote of the week, get you through the weekend, make you think. Saturday, we'll hit a writer's workshop of the same book that we covered in the reader's review. And Sunday, we'll try to get our normal lives back in order to come right back on Monday.
So make sure not only that you hit the subscribe button, but that you follow us on Twitter at StripCoverLit. At StripCover.
At StripCover on Twitter. Because on Facebook, we're at StripCoverLit.
And on Instagram, we are...
On Instagram, we are StripCoverLit.
I don't have the internet.
I know you don't. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, guys, and we'll see you next time.